Hello and welcome to episode 103 of the Wise Guys podcast. I am Brandon Capozziello. John Tortorelli is with me. Justin Ray is also with me. We are here to discuss the NBA playoffs, the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. Lakers Nuggets game one reactions. Nuggets survive a late comeback attempt by the Lakers. My Miami Heat do what they said do what I said they would do. Sorry, a little tongue twister there. We're going to talk of the 76ers. They move on from Doc Rivers. It reports that James Harden is going to be declining his player option. We're going to talk about the 76ers and is the process over? We're also going to be discussing Victor Wembanyama, the sweepstakes, the draft lottery, San Antonio Spurs, one of my brother's teams. He's hyped up. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, Wemby. We're going to discuss it, and then we might get into a little UFC, NFL, and maybe some other stuff at the end of the episode. But, guys, Thursday morning, May the, 18th, Thursday. How y'all doing?
I'm doing good. I can't stand the Victor Wembanyama overhype because I'm sure you guys saw it before the show. I was talking to you guys about it. Chris Buzard's going out there and saying if Wemby isn't Kevin Durant, a top 3 small forward ever, Hakeem Olajuwon, or Anthony Davis, no, if he is that, he is a disappointment. If he's a top 12 player of all time, he's a letdown of a first overall pick. And look, he's going to, it's kind of like Bill Belichick and his hands on Trevor Lawrence, which almost could have happened in 2021 and would ruin and send ripple effects down the league for years to come. But look, man, the fact that he's getting this much hype without playing a single NBA game is a sign the media just wants to build players up and then tear them back down. And I'm so sick and tired of it. As fans, we do this all the time. But even I, as a 19-year-old, have learned through the years, why don't you let the guy play, develop, and then in time, you start to see what he truly can be before you say something outlandish like that.
John, before you go, Justin, because you said something, we like to people like to bring them up and then tear them down. Did you guys happen to see the new movie Air?
No.
Came out recently. No,
The
about
Nike
Michael
one?
Jordan. Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
It's Nike and Michael Jordan. It's got Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. It was pretty good. I watched it. Chris Tucker's in it. And there's a speech at the end because we all know what happens. You know, Michael Jordan signs with Nike, blah, saves Nike's industry, and then the rest is history. But at the end, Matt Damon gives like this speech, and he says, he goes in. It would be, if you guys get a chance, really watch it. Like it's a pretty damn good speech. He says, you know, the media loves to bring you up. They love to put you on a pedestal that nobody can reach. They love to treat you like God just so they can tear you the fuck down. Sorry for my language, but that's how he said it. And it is so true. It is absolutely the truth. This world, for how much good there is in it, there are people in it that just they love to bring you up and then be like, oh, wait, there's holes there. There's holes there. There's holes there. Yeah, there's holes in everybody. We're human. We're not supposed to be perfect. Our imperfections make us human. So, yeah, a little philosophical there. Sorry, but
maybe the imperfection is you setting the questions behind the evaluation of Victor in the first place.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Justin, I see the Courage shirt. Yeah, big fan.
My favorite cartoon, man. Favorite cartoon of all time. And people call me a weirdo for it because
Courage is great. Cartoon Network, OG. All right.
But I'm happy to be back. Happy to be back. I was out of hiding.
Happy to have you back. Now, I'm going to ask you guys the question. What do you guys want to start with? You want to start Heat Celtics or you want to start Nuggets Lakers? I'm going to leave
Let's start Heat Celtics because we can preview the Nuggets Lakers after.
All right. I'm going to toss it to John picked the Heat in 7. I saw his tweet.
I might pick him in 6 still.
Justin, you picked the Celtics, right, in 6?
Did I even pick? I don't think I picked. I was in.
What was your?
My Knicks got eliminated.
What was your prediction?
I've been wrong with almost every single one of my playoff predictions. Yeah. So I hope that continues again. I'm gonna go Heat in 7.
Oh, you fucking! He's doing the
why?
He's doing the switcheroo. I don't like
Miami, man.
What happened?
We cannot all 3 take Miami in this series.
He's not taking Miami. He's taking Miami, hoping that they lose. John, you didn't hear what he just said. He's trying to jinx the Miami Heat.
Listen, I've been wrong about every. Let's name me the playoffs matchups. Let's see how many I've been wrong about.
Let's not go down this road. Let's
Yeah,
not go down
exactly.
this road.
We don't need to, because we know that I've been wrong about just about every single thing that I've said. So straight up, I just hope both teams lose. I was watching that game just praying that the NBA would go on strike immediately, and then we would go like in a 90s MLB season, no NBA finals, no World Series, just over. Once the Knicks got eliminated, so did my heart. So, but yeah, I if you, for the sake of the show, I got to make a pick. I'm picking Miami in 7.
Let me talk to you.
Talk to me.
You know what? You know what I just put on? You guys know anything different?
Yes, we see the
You know
shade.
why I put these on?
Talk to me.
You want to ask me? Ask me why I put these on, guys.
Jimmy Butler.
No, just ask me why I put them on.
Why did you put on the giant shades, Brandon?
Because my future's too bright. I came in here and I tried to tell everybody, all right? I tried to tell the NBA world. I tried to tell the world. I tried to tell you guys. This is different. Miami, this team, it's different. We are special, okay? I said, go back and listen to the tape. I predicted the Knicks series down to every single game. Every game. I even called this game last night before the Celtics and Sixers even played. I said Miami's taking game 1 no matter who we play. I've been calling it, guys, and guess what? I'm going to call it again. Boston's winning game 2 on Friday. Okay, spoiler alert. All right? But let's get into game 1. What happened, right? The first quarter to me was pretty much a standstill. It was pretty even. Not much, major happened. Jimmy and Bam kind of carried the offensive load. I think it was 12 and 6 points respectively. In the second quarter, though, that old man, Kyle Lowry, he's stroking it. He carried us. He helped us stay in the fight, right? Because the Celtics came on strong, especially towards the end. And that run that they went on, I felt it when they went up 47-44. I felt a run coming. I was like, oh boy, there's something's about to happen. I was getting antsy. I was bouncing my foot up and down. My hands were shaking. I was like, oh, I feel something's not good. Thank the heavens, Kevin Love made that 3-pointer to have us at least be 47 points. Because if not, it would have been 55-44 before we called the timeout. But going into half, I tweeted about it. It was uncharacteristic turnovers and a couple of late whistles that were egregious to be. And you know what? If you want to say that the whistles were warranted, I won't freaking fight you on that. But what if I feel like I've said this on the show, and I'm going to beat a dead horse. There's almost nothing in sports that I despise more than a late flag or a late whistle. Okay? Because the referees are looking at the rim or looking at the football players when they play or whatever sport, and they're waiting for the outcome to happen, right? In basketball, it would be they're waiting to see if the shot goes in. The perfect example would be the Marcus Smart one on Caleb Martin when he drove right past him, and then they literally waited until the ball was rebounded by Kevin Love before the whistle was called.
Have you ever refed before?
Go ahead, John.
Have you ever refed before?
Oh, you're going to tell me reffing is the most difficult thing in the world?
It's
not open heart surgery. It's not.
Very difficult.
It's pretty
difficult, but is it all right? Let me ask you this. What's more difficult, being an NBA basketball player or being a referee?
An NBA player.
Okay, then. I don't want to hear it.
Here's the thing you're missing.
You don't call the whistle. Are you agreeing?
I don't think they're always waiting for the shot to go in. Refs are evaluated on performance, and a lot of the time they're trying to get the call right, and so they're processing what just happened in their heads. And because of the speed of the NBA and how much of it is bang, they have to process what happened, diagnose the action, and you also got to keep in mind, in the NBA playoffs, there's 4 officials. So you're looking to see what the other one saw, and it's not going to be spontaneous every single time. You're looking to get the call right.
Hold on. 2 and 2 together right now. Okay, let's add. Are you agreeing with you guys like late whistles then?
No, nobody likes.
Okay, then what are we doing here? Then what are we talking about? I'm just a fan here explaining my anger towards late whistles, and I feel like you guys should have my backs. Okay? I really do feel like you guys should have my backs.
Because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like for fans on rats who have a pretty tough job.
If you want to say it's a foul, you call the foul. If not, you got to swallow the whistle, in my opinion, because late whistles shouldn't happen. All right. If it's a foul to you, call it. If not, you got to swallow it. You can't call it late. That's just my opinion. But let me get into it. All right. Boston led at half by 9 points, and I felt like it was a good sign that Miami kept it in 9 points. I said, like, go to myself, obviously, while watching the game. When it was 10, I wanted to keep it at least 10 to 7 points going into half, and we did exactly that, 9 points. Whew, now that third quarter came. Oh, now John tweeted, said, a tsunami. I tweeted, it felt like a Miami hurricane. See what I did there?
We see what you did.
Okay. Okay, Joe. But that was pure heat culture. That was pure heat culture basketball in that third quarter. I forget, Max Strus, I think, had 13 points in that third quarter, 12 or 13. He was showing up and showing out in that quarter. Boston wasn't ready for that avalanche that happened in that third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, once we got the lead, I think it was 78-76, or it was 79-78. Sorry. I think with like 6.5 minutes left to go. We didn't get Boston didn't lead ever again. And that was in the third quarter when we took that lead, 79-78, if I'm not mistaken. So then the fourth quarter, we basically controlled Boston. You know, they attempted to make it. It was like 114-109 for a pretty lengthy period of time late in the fourth quarter. That kind of worried me a little bit because we couldn't score. It went like 3.5 minutes before we scored a point, and I was like, oh my God, if we don't just freaking score a goddamn bucket, we're leaving them in the game. And then Jimmy with that three-pointer that he willed in, the one that touched every point of the rim. That was greatness right there. That is Timothy Butler at his absolute best. I want to speak on this. Jimmy Butler, I don't know if you guys noticed it, but he's found his spot on the court. I don't know if it's got a technical name exactly where the spot is. It's on the I guess you would call it, if you're facing the rim, it's on the left-hand side towards the end, right in between the 3-point line and the paint. That's his spot. I don't know if you guys noticed it. He made like 5 or 6 buckets, I think, last night from that spot, and everything was swished from that spot. So he has found his spot. And it's very Kobe, Jordan, hell, Kawhi-esque, KD-esque. When you cannot let a guy like that get to his spot. He's found his spot, and he was able to get it to it with ease. Bam Adebayo being aggressive. I think I said it in the Knicks series. The best Bam is an aggressive Bam. And when they tried to put anybody but Al Horford and Robert Williams on him, he should be eating them up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single time. When Jalen tried to guard him, no offense to Jalen, you can't hold Bam. He's backing you down and going down. Anybody else either. If it ain't Al or Rob, Bam should be attacking every single time because he can get whatever he wants.
This has long been the catch-22 at Bam, because defensively he was far and away the best guy on the floor, but offensively there's always an inconsistency and an inconsistent aggression to his game that leaves you wanting more. But yesterday, his 20 points and 5 assists felt like a lot more, because at the point of attack and the mid-range, he was literally shutting down everything the Boston Celtics try to do off the dribble and the mid-range at the point of attack. This is not Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, let me show you guys one simple clip. This is what Jason Tatum was getting in Game 7 versus the Philadelphia 76ers. And it's a little bit different than when you have Bam Adebayo guarding you.
A lot of elite individual defenders as Tatum knocks down another. Harris, ball denial, but Tatum gets it. Tatum finding some space, side three, it's good. 25 points. Tatum finding some space, swerving around Embiid. Step back, three-pointer, got it.
I don't have the clips, unfortunately, currently for Bam, but last night he was unbelievable defensively, and the Celtics really struggled in those runs to try to return the favor.
That last one on Embiid was some bullshit. That was just, I'm throwing that up.
I do agree. That was actually a good switch. There was one other clip where he got blown by, and I just picked the wrong switch.
Yeah. But in terms of Bam, apparently I heard on the broadcast, I don't know if you guys heard, apparently there was an argument right before the game about who's going to guard Tatum between Jimmy and Bam. And Bam got that matchup. Listen, and last year PJ Tucker was Jason Tatum's primary man to guard him. PJ didn't really get a lot of playing time, if I'm going to be honest, that you would expect. I think last year with Heat, he was playing 35 minutes plus or something like that. But yeah, listen, we've got like I heard. I don't know if you guys listened to the pre-show stuff, but they were on TNT last night inside the NBA, and Kenny and Chuck were just talking about. Kenny especially said this was like his main point, that besides Jimmy and Bam, nobody on the Heat can take a player on the Celtics spot on the roster. You get what I'm saying? And I hear that, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine, and I agree with that. I don't give a rat's ass because they don't play for the Celtics. They play for us, and there's a reason they play for us. It's because we Rough Riders and we're built different. Heat culture, all right, it's different. So yeah, you can have your Brogdons, you can have your Smarts, you can have your Horfords, you can have your Robert Williams, you can have your Grant Williams, who did not play last night, which was stupid as all hell. We got our Rough Riders. All right, and we'll take our guys against your guys, especially when we got that head dog, Jimmy Butler, who is the best player on the court. All right, he is. I don't care what nobody says. No disrespect to Jason Tatum. All right, he has earned that 10th spot in the top 10 players in the league right now.
I think he's earned a top 5 spot, honestly.
Arguably,
it sounds
yeah.
ridiculous because Luka and Joel Embiid in the regular season are so much better. But
You're talking Tatum right now?
I'm talking Jimmy Butler.
Jimmy. Oh no, I said Tatum has earned that 10th spot in top 10. Jimmy's higher. Jimmy's higher than that. Yeah, Jimmy's higher.
Okay, yeah. Tatum is easily top 10, I think.
Yeah. But Jimmy's the best player on the court. And I do want to speak to that last quick, and then I'll let Justin go because he hasn't said anything yet. And I know that Knicks fan over there, he's trying. I didn't get my moment, Justin. I didn't get my moment. You took it from me. Happy Mother's Day to your mother. I was very respectful if you didn't listen. I said, I'm not going to say anything to Justin or his Knicks right now because it's his Mother's Day. I'm going to let him.
He wished you a happy Mother's Day and kept it at that.
Yeah. But you didn't let me have my moment, Justin. Joe Mazzulla playing Peyton Pritchard, and John tweeted this, and I sent him a gift. Shh, like don't tell anybody. But it's probably it's going to change.
Tell Brandon.
It's going to most likely change in the second game because I don't know how you don't see it. If he's in the game, Jimmy's attacking him every time. It doesn't matter. He's going to get what he wants. So I would imagine he's not going to play anymore. And I don't know why he was playing anyway. You've got enough guards on your team and ball handlers. I don't know. You need a Grant Williams. You need a guy who can knock down 3-point shots and defend. And he actually knows Bam Adebayo very well.
From their days
in high school together. Yeah. So yeah, I don't understand why Grant Williams isn't playing. I would expect him to get time from here on out in that series because there's no way Joe Mazzulla didn't see that. But yeah, again, just to end it, I said Miami's taking game 1. Mission 1 has been accomplished. If you see my Twitter, if you follow me on Twitter, BrandonCap21, I'm tweeting it all the way down. All right, loading. Mission 1 complete. Game 2, Boston's going to take on Friday. I'm telling you that right now. And then we'll talk about game 2 later.
I think the most fascinating thing about this Miami Heat team, as much as I'm angry with them and I don't want to give them any flowers, is the fact that every single round in this playoffs, they've went on the road for game 1 and they've taken each game. They've taken it in Milwaukee, they've taken it in MSG in New York, and now they did it in the TD Garden against Boston. Every single one of those games, they've been favored to lose. Every single one of them. I think, Brandon, you touched on what they said in the pregame about, there's not one person on that Miami roster that you would replace for any of the players on Boston. I think that's what makes the Heat culture just so special. I think they're a gritty group, whether Tyler Hero or Oladipo are on the floor or not. This is, what you're getting out of Miami, and I've touched on this before when I praise Eric Spoelstra and I praise the culture that when you have a face of the franchise in Jimmy Butler, that's the expectation that you get. You get grit, you get toughness, you get this team that's going to battle each and every possession. And even when they play sloppy, it's for short stints because they have the coach that is going to make the adjustments to avoid it. And I feel like that's the difference here. Eric Spoelstra plays chess. Every other coach is playing checkers. Third quarter, 35-point quarter, the Boston Celtics don't call a single freaking timeout. Not once to regroup. And while that has been a constant issue with Joe Mazzulla, we've seen it in previous series before. And I say it with confidence, Brandon. I picked Miami to win the series. I really do mean it for the simple fact that I really think Spo is just miles ahead of his competition. And that third quarter was proof. You can't keep going this route of, I'm just going to let my players figure it out on the floor. No, at some point you have to bring things to their attention. And I feel like that's where Joe Mazzulla lacks. He did it before in the Philadelphia series where he didn't scheme a play during the final shots, and he regretted it. Okay, so now let me see you learn from it. Clearly he didn't. Miami goes on this run in the third quarter. At that point, you're just chasing them. There was no solving that problem at that point. And then Jason Tatum not getting a single field goal attempt in the fourth quarter. I don't know what. There's no excuse for that. So
That's clink lockdown.
But you know what? Even that, you got to find a way to create a shot. This guy had a monster Game 6 against Philadelphia, big Game 7 against Philadelphia, and we don't see him in the fourth.
Yep.
I think that's unacceptable. And Jason Tatum, as much as on this show we've questioned him and we questioned the dog in him, and each time we question it, he has a big game. We questioned it in this Philadelphia series. He closed the series with 2 big games and then opens this series here. You know, we talked about this Boston team playing with their food. They are, like Doc Rivers once said, playing with their meat. You can't do that against this Miami team. And if you haven't learned that from what they did to the Milwaukee Bucks and my New York Knicks, then you're just asking to lose. And I think that's what separates Boston from Miami. I think Miami is just, they don't play around, and Boston's going to play too much. I don't really feel like I don't really think Boston has too much of a chance. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's inexplicable that Joe Mazzulla has taken Grant Williams out the playoff rotation. Well, last year, he was pretty valuable in the series. And in fact, one of their top scorers among their rotation players here. He is not the type of leader Ime Udoka was, where the Boston Celtics go on cold spells. And Ime was kind of the perfect guy for that because he held them accountable. And I don't think Joe Mazzulla does. He takes a hands-off approach because he's a young guy that's literally younger than Al Horford, the oldest player on the team. And he's also a newer coach with less experience. So in the regular season, I withheld judgment from him, but it's so clear Ime Udoka was more experienced, more on top of these guys. And you could probably say just had a better process. Grant Williams needs to play in this series, and he's not hurt. And it's getting ridiculous at this point. As an unrestricted free agent this offseason, they're now tanking his value when he was all year long, up until the second half of the year, one of the most important players of this team. And so I look at them, and then I look at Eric Spoelstra, and, you know, I do think Eric Spoelstra is quickly becoming a top 5 coach of all time. And I want to ask you guys, where does Spo rank right now, without knowing that this Miami Heat team's going to make it to the finals, among literally the best basketball coaches to ever live? First off, we've got Greg Popovich.
For my money, I've always thought Greg Popovich is the GOAT of coaches.
I wouldn't put Spo, obviously. I wouldn't say top 3, but I think he's catapulting himself into that top 7, top 5 frame if he's not there already. I mean, you think of guys like Pop, who is clear cut. I'd say the Bill Belichick of the NBA.
Yeah.
So yeah. I go with him at number 1. I think Spo is definitely climbing the ranks, and since LeBron leaves, he's just built a winning culture, even without him.
And I want to list off the top coaches of all time so we can see just where he ranks. Number 2, Phil Jackson.
Not yet. Phil's ahead of him. Number
3, you have to give respect to a Celtics all-timer, Red Auerbach.
No.
A lot of rings.
Talk about rings. Full 5 fingers. Number 4, Pat Riley.
No.
Nope.
Pat's ahead of him, yeah.
I'm doing a quick Google search to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. And I probably am going to. So bear with me. Number 5, there's a couple of different guys I can go with here. Chuck Daly,
Yep.
Larry Brown, outside of 2004, of course. So you know what? I will go Chuck Daly, number 5.
How many rings Chuck Daly got?
He's got 2 with Detroit.
So monumental feats too.
That's so he's got the same as Spo. I think Spo's got how many finals appearances?
Well,
Spo got?
Spo's
6 finals appearances? 5? 5.
got
5.
5. It's 2 and
And
3.
then Daly's got 3 or
3 Eastern Conference. He went to the finals in 3 straight years.
4? Oh, yeah.
88, 89, and 90. He won the last 2 years of that run.
I would probably put Daly ahead of him right now. But that's a pretty close call, to be honest with you. I know that might sound sacrilegious, but I would put Daly ahead of him right now. Yeah,
I go Daly for the simple fact of who he was going up against to get to those finals. It's clearly knocking out Jordan almost all those times. So I think that has to count for something.
Yeah,
I agree. I would have Chuck Daly ahead of him, but if Spoelstra goes to the finals this year, I'm going to probably put him right there. All right, so the next name I have, Justin, is a Knicks all-timer, Red Holzman. 3 NBA Finals appearances, 2 championships in 1970, 1973. He coached for, I think, was 21 seasons? No, it was 18. And he was a one-time coach of the year, and he was ranked one of the top 10 coaches in NBA history back in 97.
Bringing the Knicks their only chips.
What do you think?
I'm sorry. I don't know why that made me laugh so much.
I take Spo.
That tickled me a lot. Yeah, I'll give it to Spo. I'm not that familiar with
different game back then. That's why.
Agreed. And the last name I'll give to you guys is Lenny Wilkins, who coached for 1921. He coached for almost 35 years, up until 2005. He won a championship back in 79 with the Supersonics. Fun fact, that's the last team out of not Texas or California to win a championship out of the Western Conference. Learned that yesterday. He went to back-to-back finals with the Supersonics back in 78 and 79. I don't know how many coach of the years he got off the top of my head. He has only one coach of the year back in 1994.
Quick question, because I'm blanking on this right now, and I might sound so. Was Red? He coached the Bird Celtics, or was that Russell?
That was Red Auerbach.
He coached the Bird Celtics, right?
No, he didn't coach. That was eventually
who was that?
Tom Heinsohn. They had a multitude of different coaches, but Red Auerbach was the executive in those years because after 1969, he stepped down and Bill Russell became a player's coach for a couple of seasons. Yes. He was eventually replaced by a couple of guys, Nelson, Tom Heinsohn, and Jones. Gotcha. I think it was Casey. It was Casey Jones.
Gotcha. But yeah, Spo is, I mean, you're right. Listen, if he goes to the finals, definitely the conversation going to be had is probably, passing Chuck Daly. It's going to be very hard for him to pass Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, and Pop. Those are the 3 guys that I think are kind of cemented. That's going to be hard to pass. But listen, Spo's climbing the ranks. He is earning a lot of respect, especially now you can't say, it was just LeBron and Wade. Like, no, it wasn't. This guy is a freaking film rat. All right. He is in there like swimwear. And he started from the bottom, like I said. Now he here, video coordinator, was possibly going to get fired too. I think when the Heat got like I forget what it was, either new management or something like that. And he rose to the occasion. And then, oh no, I was talking about when he first got hired back in the 90s. I think it was for that. But yes, you're right there too. Braun did not want him early. He was like, I want Pat Riley to come back down, and Pat stood pat and said, no, this is the guy. And Pat Riley was right.
You gotta give Pat Riley some credit, bro, because I mean, damn. Eric Spoelstra might be a top 5 coach of all time that he bred out of a video coordinator job. By the way, he was a great college player back on the West Coast at Portland. I might be wrong there, back in the late 80s. Eric Spoelstra to me is the best coach, and it's not even close since Greg Popovich. You look at the history of the NBA, he had R back in the 50s and 60s. The 1970s, the league was definitely, a weird state, but that was probably Lenny Wilkins into the 80s. And then the 90s was Phil Jackson. The 2000s was Greg Popovich. The first half of the 2010s was Greg. The second half and the 2020s, I think, are going to be dominated by Eric Spoelstra as the cream of the crop. Even at this, look, the Miami Heat have a superstar in Jimmy Butler that we give all the credit to, but I think just stylistically, there's no one that gets more of his role players. There's not a better scheme. There's not a better culture. His guys are always prepared and confident. And that to me is a sign of coaching, because if your guys aren't always confident, especially when they're missing shots, that is a sign that the leadership may not be in place to get the most out of their skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Great example of that is Max Strus. Played like shit all year long. In the playoffs, he's making himself a boatload of money. As you talked about before, 13 points in the second quarter, in the third quarter. Kyle Lowry. And what do you say to Kyle Lowry to get him to play like this again? Because Kyle Lowry in the regular season was constantly hurt, not really a guy that we expected to be a big-time difference maker in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And what do you know? Right now for the Miami Heat, he's been the best sixth man in the postseason. Almost like I tried to tell Knicks fans that last round, but they didn't want to hear it.
I'm still trying to figure out
what happened.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out.
Happened. He ran so many circles around Tom Thibodeau. You got dizzy, man.
You know what? I'm not going to go that far, but that's for another day.
I agree.
Yeah.
The answer was that you guys are playing like 3-on-5 offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's more like it. Yeah.
Yes.
Shout out Mr. Max Strus out there, the Strusmeister. He's stroking that thing too, and that's all for. I just sounded like Porky the Pig there. That's all for the Heat and Celtics game 1. Now we're going to Lakers at Denver. Game 1 happened on Tuesday night. Denver was. I'll get into it when I talk about it, but I'm gonna pass it off to John here. John, Denver took one at home. Now listen, they took a shot to the gut towards the end, but they were able to survive and get up off the canvas. Talk to me about what happened.
Well, the first quarter, the Nuggets didn't even belong on the same court as the Lakers. It looked like they were the Harlem Globetrotters just dominating in transition. And the offensive glass was Nikola Jokic's. He had 10 rebounds in the first quarter. And I'm sitting here like, you know what? This is why Jokic is the best player in the world. And I've said this so many times. He's the best scorer, the best rebounder, and the best playmaker in his position. But he might not just be the best at his position. He might be the best at those 3 categories in the whole league, right? And then the second and third quarter, the Lakers start to chip away at it. And then in the fourth, they come and they just don't die. And one thing that really stood out to me was defensively, the Nuggets, I actually felt Jokic early on did a pretty good job making Anthony Davis work and hit super tough layups and finishes. But as the game went on, both he and Jamal Murray had a tough time on LeBron and Anthony Davis. AD goes 3 of 5 in this game. Vintage AD in the bubble, which we don't see nowadays. And I'm like, you know what? The Nuggets are going to play drop coverage against Davis because he's not a consistent shooter at all. He even made a corner 3 in this game and didn't miss a single foul shot. But really, the bigger issue was Jamal Murray had 31 points. This was one of the worst defensive performances I've ever seen from him because he kept switching on LeBron and Rui Hachimura. And when Jokic was off the court too, they had no size at the rim to protect him. And then he's trying to switch on to LeBron, and he's not getting down to Austin Reeves. He makes 5 threes. He made 2 or 3 out of pick and pop. And the Lakers just keep chipping away at this lead up until the fourth where it becomes a one-possession game. Jokic has Rui Hachimura switch on to him, and this is always the big concern. It's Anthony Davis playing off the action. And the Lakers hold him to 2 points, just 2 free throws in the fourth. And it was so close, I started to shut my mouth and like, all right, let's see what happens here. Because the Nuggets lose this game, well, they're going to lose all the momentum in the series. Luckily, by the graces of LeBron trying to go for 2 points when they're down by 3, Jokic gets a strip, and they come out with the take. They come out with the win, surviving Anthony Davis's best offensive game this postseason, where he dropped 40 points. We don't see that, like, literally ever. And he and LeBron both had to play 40 minutes in what still was a loss. That, to me, is not a moral victory for the Lakers. That, to me, is, wow, they may be gassed for game 2. And that puts the Nuggets in a pretty favorable position to, again, dominate in the first quarter, just like they did to get the narrow takeaway, the narrow W back at home to start this series off.
No,
I don't know how people are saying it's a moral victory for the Lakers. I really don't.
It's a game that they should have won, and especially when you score 72 points in the second half, you have to find a way to win that game. That's the whole reason why, and it infuriated me in previous series watching the Knicks about starting fast, starting fast, starting fast. It's all the more important when shit like that happens. If you could score 72 points in the second half, imagine if you get off to a better start early. You easily win that game. Maybe not easily, but you still win that game on the road in game one in Denver. You needed that. So that's a tough one for the Lakers. But can somebody please, I know the stat line, but I want somebody to do it for me. Read off Jokic's stat line.
A quiet night, Justin, of 34 points on 12 of 14 shooting going into the fourth quarter. He ended up missing all three of his shots in the fourth. So he finished 12-17. So 34 points on 12-17 shooting with 21 rebounds, 14 assists, and 2 blocks in the first half.
I laughed when I was looking at that because it just feels like this guy's playing 2K. He's playing with a video game remote in his hand, and he has it on rookie. The dude had 19 points in the first half. He's just an absolute monster, and there's really I don't think there's an answer for him at all. He's going to leave his imprint in his game on this series. Win or lose, he's going to make an impact positively on his squad. Now, yeah, his defense can be in question sometimes, but I don't think he's as poor a defender as people make him seem to be. So, I honestly, the Denver stealing game one, which is, I believe they were favored to win that game. They put themselves in a big advantage right now, a chance to go up 2-0 going to LA, because I honestly believe if Denver goes up 2-0, the series is over. I don't believe the Lakers come back from that.
So preface my comments, I have Denver in 7. I said Denver was going to win at home. I actually said that I think
Both games?
the home. Yeah, I actually do think the home team. I think they're just going to win out at home. I got to be honest with you. So I don't think the series is over if Denver goes up 2-0, because we've seen them struggle on the road, and the Lakers have actually been incredible at home. They haven't lost at home either in the playoffs. But about this game, it seemed, especially early, every time the Lakers would make a run or try to get it close, that freaking Jamal Murray would make a big shot. Michael Porter Jr. would make a big shot. Jokic would do some crazy shit. KCP would make a big shot. Bruce Brown would make a big shot. It just seemed like every time Lakers tried, these guys would just – it would go in, it would go in, it would go in. Early, I'm talking about.
They're quick off makes.
Yeah. Now, I'll get into that later. But I said Jokic was making the game look easy, to speak on him. But I also said that I think AD would be able to make it difficult, make him work, slow him down a little bit. Not shut him down, because you're never going to do that. These players are just too good. But slow him down. Now, taking game one with a grain of salt, because it's the biggest toss-up, blah, 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 blah. But Jokic thoroughly dominated Anthony Davis through 3 quarters. We'll get into that.
Good
now, this is what we call a series of games, right? This is not a one and done. This is a series of games. And you guys say, how does somebody see the Lakers took a moral victory from this? Well, because they might have found a recipe for success. John alluded to it. Jokic, you said he missed all of his shots in the fourth quarter?
0-3.
Yeah. There's a reason for that. It's because Darvin Ham finally found what he was looking for. And it definitely wasn't playing 3 freaking guards. I can tell you that much. All right.
Bench and D'Lo.
Definitely they're probably going to have to bench D'Lo. And there's a chance that if they bench him that, I don't know. I'm not going to try and, compare him to Jordan Poole, but you could lose him mentally, basically. But you got to do what you got to do to win the series. Hachimura, putting Hachimura on Jokic. And if you watched the game late into it, I forget who was calling the game. Was it Mark Jackson and then Van Gundy? And then even afterwards, Jalen Rose, Wilbon talked about it. JJ Redick talked about it. Everybody talked about it. When you put Hachimura on Jokic, it's not about the fact that Hachimura can stop Jokic. He's not. He's about 6'8", 6'9", 235-ish. He's a big body, right? He's not a small man at all. But he can be a tall, big body in front of Jokic or behind him. And now it allows, and John spoke to it, Anthony Davis to roam, play free safety. But what everybody else has seemed to forgetting too, it doesn't just allow AD to do that. It allows AD and LeBron to do that. Now you got two Ed Reeds out there, or a Ed Reed and a Troy Polamalu, maybe. You got two of those guys out there that can roam, play free safety, and we know Anthony Davis, those long-ass limbs getting out there, he can disrupt passing lanes. LeBron, highest basketball IQ in the freaking game. He's going to see things coming before they even happen. I'm not saying that because, listen, the Lakers made their adjustment, and this is a game of adjustments, right? Denver has to make their adjustments. They're gonna make theirs. I'm not going to say the Lakers will win game 2 because I do still think Denver is going to win game 2, but they have found a recipe for success. And if Denver doesn't do anything about it, it could cause trouble for them because Jokic started to get frustrated late in that fourth quarter. He did. When those shots were not going in, he was getting a little frustrated, going like, God damn it. You know what I mean? So one thing I thought, this was a funny thought I had. The having Hachimura on there and having AD and LeBron roam, it's kind of like playing NBA 2K. If you guys have ever done that, ever played NBA 2K, and having the computer guard the guy, basically playing off-ball defense, which is the dumbest shit ever. If you have NBA 2K and you buy that game, that is a $60 game. You have paid $60 to play 50% of that game. I will never understand that. But that's kind of like what it was. But yeah, I think Denver's going to take game 2. But John alluded to it too. Benching D'Lo, because D'Lo, if you're, and listen, I've been, I guess, the biggest defender of D'Lo on the show. If you're going to be on the court getting major minutes, you have to produce offensively because that's what you're there to do. Because defensively, you're not holding. He's about 6'1", 6'2". He's slight. He's not holding Jamal Murray. So if you're not scoring, you're a liability on that team, and that's what I do think. Game 2, you're going to see the lineup of Dennis Schroeder, Austin Reeves, Hachimura, LeBron, and Anthony Davis, and I think that is the winning lineup right now.
You're muted.
No thoughts?
Hello.
Look, I'm a little bit on the middle of this discussion because, look, if they tried Jared Vanderbilt on Jokic, he got into foul trouble quickly. He had 2 fouls in the fourth quarter. This Rui Hachimura plan that he's going to guard Jokic and more so just get underneath him because the low man always wins, I don't think is going to be something they can rely on because he's going to pick up fouls. But the other element too is that the Nuggets stopped moving the ball in the fourth quarter. They're best when it's Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, 2-man games, working in Pearson, working together, and more so getting all those shooters, MPJ, KCP, Bruce Brown now apparently, and to an extent, no, that's bad. Aaron Gordon's not going to be working off action, but Aaron Gordon can set a ball screen. They need to take him out to the low man, the dunker spot, the shallow area where AD can guard him in the rim at the same time, because AG is a more than capable 3-point shooter. He just needs to take those looks. Jeff Green was actually benched for Aaron Gordon, and Jeff might be a slightly better corner shooter. You put Aaron in the corner, he makes a couple shots, then AD is probably going to start to leave the paint and go and guard him. If Aaron's missing, you put Aaron in the action, if you can roll, and you run Aaron Gordon and Jokic together to get AD switched back onto Jokic. Yeah. Now you've got Aaron Gordon sealing Rui Hachimura on a dive to the rim, and Jokic can maybe hit him on a pretty ridiculous pass, which he's typically going to be able to make. And that's going to be a nightmare for the Lakers if they can't even get AD, if they have to deal with AD getting switched back onto Nikola. But I think the biggest counter to this would be running more Jamal Jokic pick and roll, having Nikola work off the action and get him moving. Make Rui Hachimura guard him more on the perimeter where he can't get in front of him. If you get Jokic on the move and you also get him going in transition, well, then I think a lot of this plan to have Rui and AD both working in person, we've seen it before. We saw it last year at Draymond and Looney. We saw it this year at PJ Tucker and Joel Embiid. It works for stretches, but I don't think that's going to stop Nikola Jokic in this series.
Well,
it's nice. It's a nice idea. Yeah, it looked good in the fourth quarter, but I don't think something like that is just going to be sustainable. I feel like Mike Malone and them are going to figure something out to scheme it open. I feel like Jokic will be more than fine. I think it's nice to employ that late in the game when a team wasn't expecting it. But if that's what you're going to throw out for 4 quarters of a game, a team's going to scheme against it. Good coaches will find a way.
Yeah.
No,
I hear you on that. And listen, it's not going to stop Jokic. I'm not. That's foolish to say. I said like they're not stopping Jokic, and I don't think it's going to be 100% Hachimura on Jokic. I would imagine AD's going to get him sometimes. LeBron's going to get him sometimes. Right. Hachi's going to get him sometimes. Vando's going to get him sometimes. Hell, I would even love to see maybe a Tristan Thompson sighting for 5 or 6 minutes.
God, no,
yes,
Brandon.
no, yes, for 5 minutes.
Oh no,
for 5 minutes, Tristan
Don't do
Thompson.
That.
Listen,
Oof.
See, this is what you're not hearing, John. This is what you're not hearing. It's not the fact that Tristan Thompson is this all-time great defender. He's going to stop Jokic or so. It's the fact that Tristan Thompson is. Can we agree he's a menace? He'll scrap at you. He'll fight. Can we agree on that? Right? Is he underset? Like these are not. What happened?
It's been a while since he's been like an actual rotation player. I don't know.
But no, John, you're not hearing me. 5 or 6 minutes. Like this is not
5 or 6 minutes is a lot.
Might be a -10 by the end of that 5-minute stretch.
I really don't think so. I really don't think so. I think for 5 or 6 minutes just to get AD some rest or something like that. And dude, he's got 5 fouls. He can foul Jokic and rough him up a little bit. Like this is we've seen this.
He's got 6. You don't want him in the game. He's got full 6.
But it doesn't. No. But all I'm saying is 5 or 6 minutes, like stretched out throughout the entire game. I think Tristan Thompson would be a great addition, especially because him and LeBron do work very well together. Listen, Tristan Thompson's a menace. He's going to scrap. He's going to fight. I'm not saying he's going to shut him down. I'm just saying 5 or 6 minutes, this guy's going to come in. He's going to bump with Jokic. He's going to rough him up a little bit, try to get into his head psychologically. I'm not saying it's going to work. I'm just saying that is a strategy to attempt. I really hope Mo Bamba can get healthy for this series because he is a true 7-footer. And I'm not, again, John keeps making these faces. I'm not saying these guys are going to stop Jokic. Understand the words. It's just a body to put in front of somebody so AD doesn't get in foul trouble, so AD can get arrested, so LeBron can get arrested, so all these guys it's throwing bodies at Jokic. That is all this plan is. I hear you. Nobody's stopping Jokic.
No, what I'm telling you is that it's going to be ugly because they're going to run in transition.
I get you're saying.
If the Lakers want to take the 2020 approach with JaVale and Dwight Howard guarding Jokic, which worked very well, you need a guy that's actually playing the last year. I haven't seen Tristan Thompson, the NBA player, get dusted off in over a year. And I don't want to see him in the series. I forgot he was on the Lakers. I barely even knew that. I've seen him more times this year on television. And why I'm laughing at that's because I think the Nuggets are going to run them out the gym in transition. The Lakers aren't going to be able to guard space with Tristan Thompson roaming out there because Jokic is shooting 50% this year from downtown. You want him to guard Jokic in space? Well, now the Nuggets are going to surely exploit that and run a million pick and rolls until he's like a -15, not a -10 in 6 minutes. And now Darvin Ham's like, oh, I've been doing so good. I've benched D'Lo. I've got the right lineups. I'm making all these chess moves. Man, it would be some nasty cooking if you put if you put Tristan Thompson on the floor. Nasty.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't agree. Listen, I hear what you're saying and I agree those things can happen, but I don't see it that way.
I understand what you mean from the premise of just avoiding AD.
He's just a tough-ass guy that's going to be up there and just going to fight with it. Yes, can he be taken advantage of 100%? But I don't know. This is just plans to get in there. You got to try something, man. You got to try something. And hell, if it starts to work, that's great. If it doesn't, and John's right, and these things start accumulating. Then you call freaking timeout and you say, get back on the bench. Like this is, you should be able to evaluate that as a head coach and see, okay, this is not going well. We got to go.
But Oh, my bad. I was just gonna say I don't think they're at the point right now where they need to start employing new tactics. It was game one. Unless they
Yeah, no,
go
no, no,
down
no.
2-0 and they absolutely need to start exploring new options, then yeah. But
Yeah, no, I'm just talking simply because I'm looking at the minutes right here. Anthony Davis played 42 minutes.
as he should.
Yeah, that's an issue.
Okay, as you should. I don't know about that
I
because
feel like that's what you need out of your
not
starting
right
lineup.
now. Not right now. In a game 6 or 7, 100%. But in a game 1 early, that's why I'm talking Tristan Thompson too. AD's got nobody to when he comes out. Who's the tallest guy on the court? Now, I know Tristan's not tall or anything, but that's why I also mentioned Mo Bamba too. That's all I'm saying is to get him off so he can get a breather. He doesn't get in the foul trouble, and it's just take him out with a minute and a half left in the first quarter, with a minute left in the second quarter. Like this, like tiny little stretches throughout the game.
Right.
I'm not talking major minutes or anything, but
the thing is, Darvin Ham wants to mirror AD's minutes right with Jokic because he only got to be on the floor with them at the same time and not could actually just being into a pulp by Jokic.
Yeah,
and
they both
Bamba,
played 2 minutes. Yeah.
Obviously, no one's watched the Orlando Magic the last 3 years, but he is very soft and he doesn't play hard. And I feel like in a series like this, he would also just get battered to a pulp and he wouldn't be good in transition. Yeah, he can hit a corner 3 or 2, but I feel like much like last series versus Jock Landale, he would guard Jokic worse than Ayton did. So in those non-AD minutes, I really think you're better off going like all offense with LeBron and Rui. You just put Braun on him at the 5, Hachimura, Reeves, maybe not D'Lo because he's terrible off the ball defensively. He's a train wreck. But you go maybe, I don't know, you can't go Malik Beasley. You just go with 2 guards, they're not going to be terrible. And I think that would be a better use of those last 2 minutes than putting on some centers who have no business playing the series from a physicality and like skill perspective.
I guess agree to disagree. But last thing on this game, the Nuggets, I'm interested to see because I don't believe they're going to play as well as they did last 2 nights ago. They played incredible. At one point they were 55, I think also 50% from 3 and also 100% from the free throw line. Like that is absolutely ridiculous. They finished 56, 51, 81, but listen, the Lakers played a game like I tweeted this, if they were playing literally any other team on any other night, they would probably either have the lead or be neck and neck with the team. They just happened to face that Denver Nuggets team on that night where those Nuggets were not going to be stopped for the first 3 quarters.
Agreed.
And I feel like the Lakers, they were getting punched in the mouth, punched in the body throughout the entire game. And they were able to weather the storm, get up off the canvas, and keep fighting back. And that's a great sign to see in the team. And we'll see how this series plays out. But I'm loving it. LeBron, I think, missed all of his 3-pointers. I think he went 0 for 4. But he was pretty effective from the 2-point range. I think it was like 9 of 13, if I'm not mistaken.
The Lakers, the team, are 8 of 17 on mid-range shots, which is a little bit uncharacteristic if D'Lo is going to be off the floor.
Yeah. But this is going to be a great series. But last thing I got to say, I've been saving this one. So, John, you started this ruckus, right? You got people calling me out and stuff. 20 points was all I said. 20 points, Justin. That's all I said. 20 points. I didn't say 30, 40. I said 20 points. And Anthony Davis went out there and said, hey, Brandon, you said 20. I'm going to double it.
Give Jokic 40? Yeah, look, what I told you is Jokic is not going to get battered by AD. So you said he's going to drop 20 points. I just think it's going to be quite easy. And I said, I don't agree with that at all. But the 20 points per game for AD wasn't as much as what I was disagreeing with. It was he's going to have his way with Jokic. I think in any series, a guy that's playing 40 minutes can get you 20 points if he's your second best player.
Then why'd you come at me?
The main offensive initiator.
Then why'd you come at me?
You made it out to be.
No, I didn't. You're a liar.
You're a liar.
You made it out to be.
All I said.
He said, she said.
No, all I said was, I believe Anthony Davis can pretty easily score 20 points per game on Nikola Jokic. And then you
And that I
said,
partially
you know
agree
what? I have to
with
disagree with
still.
you there, Brandon. I have to disagree with you there. And then I got angry and upset because I didn't think, and I screamed it. I didn't think you heard me right. I'm talking Anthony Davis here. Like, this isn't DeAndre Ayton. This isn't Cat. This isn't Rudy Gobert.
Notice how Cat's a better offensive player than Anthony Davis?
Is he really?
I think he is.
What did he do in the playoffs?
Nothing.
What did Anthony Davis just do?
A lot.
Duh.
But here's the difference. AD's reliant on transition. He got a lot of steals, and he got a lot of free throws. He got to the foul line 11 times. But we know with AD, outside of the bubble, where he was even then an inconsistent mid-range shooter, he's not going to continue hitting these ridiculous shots. And Jokic was guarding him really well in the first quarter. AD was still making some pretty tough finishes through contact, and he's a good finisher. I don't trust him in 40 minutes of action to be a consistent threat offensively. He's never been that, and he's playing so many minutes. Jokic is in better physical shape from a conditioning element. And that's a crazy thing to say to most people, but it's true. Yeah, and I also think from a physicality standpoint, Jokic is a tougher, more physical guy to guard. If AD can just camp off him, it changes the game. But he's going to start the frame on Jokic. I think with his minute totals, you're going to see him tonight not play well offensively. And it's not a surprise because every game 2, 4, and 6, he lays an egg offensively. But it's 1, 3, 5, and 7s where he has more rest, maybe 3 or 4 days that he comes out like a bat out of hell and looks like the second best player in the court or the best if he's not playing against Nikola Jokic. I mean, at the end of the day, Bren, that's the most points he'll score in this series.
Over under 25 points, John, for AD tonight.
Oh, tonight? I'll hand the under big time. I think tonight he'll have like 17.
Yeah,
I think,
and listen,
I think he'll still have some 25 pointers. He'll probably have a 30-point game extra, but it's not going to be a consistent thing where he's taking care of Jokic like it's nobody's business. But here's the thing, Bren. I will admit when I'm wrong, he will average 20 points in the series, but it won't come easy. Also important to note to you, Jamal Murray was the bigger issue defensively because he's got this ear infection, and imagine putting me out there and just having me switch on LeBron. That's what it felt like because he was doing unspeakable things. Both him and
you made a joke there with the ear infection. Oh, okay, I see what you did there.
Oh, why? I've got wider ears?
No. You said he's got an ear. Does he actually have an ear infection, or you mean like? Oh, okay. I thought you meant like he couldn't hear, like they're calling like switch and stuff. I thought you were.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, no. He could have maybe had some issues with that. He still had a phenomenal offensive game, but defensively, I've never seen him play worse. Honestly.
Yeah, no, he was making a lot of mistakes, and they were calling it out during the game. I was watching Stevens A's World a little bit. I was flipping back and forth on the broadcast. And like they were yelling, like when I think it was late in the game too, when Reeves was starting to cook hard. Like it was like Jalen Rose said it. Yeah, that's who it was. It was like, no, you got to switch. You got to switch that. And it's just, yes, he was making a lot of boneheaded mistakes defensively. I think he'll be better tonight. As far as the ear infection, I couldn't care less about an ear infection. Right? LeBron James is playing with 2 bum ankles at 38 years old. I don't want to hear it. And I have so much respect for Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is an absolute baller. He's built for these moments, and I love it. But yeah, I think Denver predictions for tonight, guys. I expect Denver to win game 2. I got Denver.
Okay. Is this a must win for the Lakers tonight?
No,
it's not a must win, but if they win this game, they quickly become a favorite in this series. Not to me, but to many people, they're going to be riding the bandwagon. I think the Nuggets tonight will have another close game. I actually don't think it'll be a blowout, but I'm expecting a couple in the series. I still think AD is going to come out slow, and they'll probably take care of business. And they'll go up 2-0, I'm confident.
I do think this is a must-win for the Lakers. I know it's just game 2, but I feel like it's very important to steal one on your opposing team's home court. You have to take at least one where you can go back into LA and feel at ease, where you can just defend your home without feeling like you got to come back. I got Denver tonight.
Respect. The Nuggets' last road game, they blew out the Suns by 25 points. I don't think they're a terrible team. That's no threat on the road either. I definitely think they'll give the Lakers a push in one of the 2 games, and they'll probably win one of my eyes.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road ahead. But this is going to be a great series. So now we got some not breaking news anymore, but we got breaking news a couple days ago. Doc Rivers has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. Rumors that apparently James Harden will be declining his, I think it was $36 million player option. He apparently wants basketball freedom, whatever the fuck that is.
You know what that is. Don't pretend you don't.
He just wants to go out all night and, mess with the coochie mamas and whatever the hell is going out there and
That's
drink.
the add-on, Brandon.
Yeah, that's the plus. So, John, I'm going to throw it to you. Simple question. Is the process over?
It's officially done. When your fan base turns on you, that's when you know it. We can't win with this team. Joel Embiid is turning 30 years old next year, but as they say, in basketball years, he's already getting closer to 40 than he is 30. I've seen this team for so many years. 6, in fact, get knocked out in the 5 of those 6 years get knocked out in the second round. And at some point, if James Harden leaves, you reach no return. There's no more moves to make. It's over. What can you do? If he walks, you can't replace him, so you have to trade Tobias Harris to offload salary. But this free agent class stinks. There's no replacing him. And then to make it even more frustrating, I don't think you can win a championship with Joel Embiid. Could he prove me wrong? Maybe, but up until this point, he's done nothing in the playoffs. This is 7 years of him being in the league. He has not had a good playoff series where it's like, wow, that was an emphatic statement by an MVP candidate. Last year, he had his biggest moment, a game winner versus the Raptors in Game 3. In that series, that Toronto team, with Pascal Siakam leading them, almost came back from down 3-1 and took the Sixers to 7 games in the first rounds. Joel Embiid was hurt in that series, but because of his injuries and just slow style of play, I don't think he can be the best player in a championship team. And defensively, we're starting to see, well, he's actually not like this perfect two-way player that everyone envisions him to be. The Celtics have kicked their ass for years. And as Joel said back in 2018, this ain't no rivalry. I love Joel. I did. Philly fans did. But when they're turning on their superstar because he's a no-show in Game 7s and he's hurt every single year, that's when you have to turn the page. It's more than over for Philadelphia. I think it's time you trade him to New York. You get yourself a pair of picks and a couple of young players. Justin, what do you think about Joel Embiid, a playoff loser up until this point, but an MVP in New York?
I would be absolutely ecstatic if there's any superstar out there that we can make a move for. I wouldn't push the button just for anybody. I know Stephen A. Smith was out there saying Damian Lillard. No, we got our point guard. It's okay. If you bring us an Embiid with the team that we had this past season, I think the Knicks are ready to contend for a title. But this isn't a segment about the New York Knicks. This is a segment about the 76ers. I do believe the process is over. I mean, James Harden being out there, Doc Rivers now out the door, which was also questionable. If you plan on keeping Embiid, you want to appease your superstar. He was very friendly. He was very high on Doc Rivers. So you let him go, basically dismissing whatever your star player thinks. So already ruffling feathers. It's tough when you look at this Philadelphia team and not to be critical of them, because this is the easiest the Eastern Conference has been in a long time. You have that first round against the Brooklyn Nets. You do your work. You take care of them. Then you go into the second round, in the toughest series yet. You find yourself up 3-2 with a home game in Game 6, and you don't finish it. Okay, you got a second chance. You're going back to Boston, where you have won a game, and then you get demolished. You lose. Jason Tatum puts up a monster game. Your two superstars do not show up in either one of those games for you. And then you would have had the 8th seed Miami Heat, and that's not knocking the Miami Heat, but granted, 8th seed. That is the easiest road to the NBA Finals the Philadelphia 76ers would have had, and they did not seize the opportunity. The process is over. I feel like the process has been over for a while now, but I think all this year has cemented that completely. I think it's time to move on, create something new. You failed with the Ben Simmons project, failed with the James Harden project, and now I'm not going to say Joel Embiid was a complete failure, but he's not changing the game the way Giannis was, and he used that quote that Giannis did about, it wasn't failure, it's a step to success. No, Joel. Not for you, bro. Not for you. You're not a NBA champion. You didn't will your team to a championship just a couple of years ago. Giannis can say that because he won. He took his team to the finals. He dominated. You didn't do that. Process is over. I think it's time to maybe start anew, but will they? I don't think so.
Go ahead, John. You want to say something real quick?
And speaking of that, real quick, I can't tell you how much nonsensical, stupid, naive comments Sixers fans gave because Nikola Jokic won 2 MVPs, but he never did anything in the playoffs. Joel Embiid gets an MVP, and for the 5th time in his career gets bounced in the second round. In fact, his team won game 1 without him. He comes back for game 2, and they're getting demolished. Should he have been out there on the floor? Probably not, right? But every year you're hurt. Nikola Jokic has been one of the best playoff performers of our generation, and people try to spin it that he was a playoff choke artist because he couldn't beat the Golden State Warriors. Like everybody else, he got bounced, but with no support. Joel Embiid, for years, needed shooting. You get one of the best shooters in the league, George Neen. You need defense. You need culture pieces. You got D'Anthony Melton and PJ Tucker. You need a better star, James Harden. They need a new coach. They bring in Doc Rivers, who, much like Harden's a playoff fraud, but they've made every single move. They brought in a much better GM. They had Seth Curry and Danny Green. Every single year, Joel Embiid's career, he has choked in the playoffs. Or in 2020, altogether, does not have the support the one year he didn't. But even then, he was dealing with an ankle injury in the bubble. I'm done with him, man. Not only does he have no playoff resume, but he went out with his tail between his legs, and that is the unforgivable thing for Philadelphia fans. He quit on his team. He didn't call for the ball, and James Harden literally was like, you know what? I'm going to do what I did last year. I'm going to disappear in the biggest game of my career, and we're going to see how we do. Well, he got killed. That's how he did.
And you know what? I didn't even touch on the comment where he said everybody else needs to be better. It can't just be him and James. I thought that was so stupid to say when in the biggest games you didn't show up. You have to show up for that. That's the point. That's the reason you make as much money as you do. There's a reason you're the MVP. You need to show up for those games. Don't look to everybody else. You know, as a Knicks fan, I expect my all-pro, all-NBA power forward Julius Randle to show up in a playoff game. And when he doesn't, well, yeah, everybody else needs to show up. You need to take accountability and say, that was on me. He obviously he's not like that, but I mean,
and he did, to his defense, because everyone wants to defend him right now. He did say, Justin, he's like, look, in order for us to win a championship, we all have to be better. I have to be better. James has to be better. And then people took that quote at the end where he says, our role players can be better too. And people like me took that. I didn't watch the interview. I was like, oh wow, Joel really just said that. And then I had to go back and listen to the entire thing. I was like, okay, it's still stupid as shit to say that. Even mentioning it can't be me and James. Because you guys rub off on your teammates. When you are nervous and that energy is felt by the fans, it's going to be felt by your teammates. So, no kidding, they didn't show up in the second half because you did not show up. Jimmy Butler's teammates always come clutch in the playoffs. Why? Well, he always comes up clutch. When the superstar is reliable, it so happens, basically, if you have a good supporting cast around you, which Philadelphia does, those supporting players will play much better. But when you're counting on them to knock down one spot up through after another because you can't create for yourself and rely on your teammates to knock down 40% of their triples to beat Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, you're not going to win the math game. You're just not going to get a W in the end.
Okay. Yeah. Talk to him. So where do I want to start? Let's start with the culture pieces, right? 100% John's correct in the last thing he said about Jimmy Butler showing up. It's a culture piece. When you have guys like a Joel Embiid and a James Harden who kind of have similar body languages when their teams are down and getting a run put on them to a Ayton, a Julius Randle, and people like that, that's not good. Kenny Smith, I think, spoke on it multiple times. You can never question an NBA player's passion, but you can question their effort. That is very visible, and he's brought up points where you can just watch the tape, and if you look at a guy who's laboring up the court, not giving his full effort, you can see if a guy's giving his full effort to get up the court or not. That's very easy to see. But yeah, so in terms of, is the process over? I've always been on the train where I don't believe I believe Joel Embiid can get shut down more with relative ease than, let's say, a forward or a guard who's got the ball in his hands and really can, create off the perimeter towards himself and doesn't have to get the ball in the post and create there. But he has come up small. every year, like John said, he hasn't gotten past the second round. He said, there's stepping stones. This is a step towards success. It's not, because a step towards success would actually be taking a step forward, not staying in the exact same place every single year. In terms of Doc Rivers getting fired, I didn't necessarily agree with that. And I know John is, he's taking his shots and joked on him, the chokes and all that, which are completely factual and 100% warranted. That, listen, they happened. But Doc Rivers is a Hall of Fame coach. He is, because he's got top 10 in wins, John. I think he's 9th. And every single other head coach on that list is a Hall of Famer. So he is a Hall of Fame head coach. He has won a championship. Yes, has he blown the most leads and this and that? Yeah, but he's still you have to give credit to a guy who is able to get there too as well. And you should actually know that for being, saying LeBron is the GOAT, coming up short all the time in the finals and only winning a couple. But
I'm going to look at the NFL top winners right now, because
NBA.
I'm looking at NFL to see if there's a relevant fraud, because there's always going to be an imposter, and you can, as a great coach, and Tom Thibodeau says, Justin, you can spin numbers to tell you whatever they want to tell you. And that's actually Tom Thibodeau quote. Actually, in the NFL, there's not a fraud like Doc Rivers in the top 20. But my point is that, Brent, Doc Rivers, he's done great with teams with no playoff expectations. But after coaching the Big Three Celtics in 2008, he has done nothing in the playoffs.
Well, let me ask you a question, right? Because I hear what you're saying, and I know what you're saying. Those Clipper teams ever really have any business competing for a championship? I mean, Chris Paul was their best player, and I love Chris Paul. He's a top 5 point guard of all time, but your best player is a 6-foot point guard in a game of giants. Blake Griffin is supposed to be that guy. We know Blake Griffin's limitations. He can't shoot outside of 5 feet. That was a very big problem. Okay. While the team was built very well, Lob City and all, it really wasn't. It was more conducive of showtime and box office numbers and not winning a championship. Then we go from him to, what does he go? He goes to Philly now. And you have lamented on all the players. You go through, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. They have Jimmy Butler. They chose Tobias over Jimmy. That wasn't Doc's decision. I don't even know if Doc was even the head coach at that time.
He's not.
Yeah. You got then you get James Harden, another playoff choker. Like, I understand, but I understand I get it all, right? But in basketball, I've always said this. In football, head coaching and players meet, it's kind of more 50-50 in football, while in basketball it's more 75-25 in my opinion, towards the players and then the coaches. Okay. And so when you see all these blown leads, right, for Doc Rivers, I would just go back and look at all the games too, and let me know if any of his star players showed up, because you've already talked.
I mean, Chris Paul was playing pretty well in 2015 when they blew a 3-1 lead to the Houston Rockets and a playoff choke artist and James Harden, right?
Yes, he did. Chris Paul did. Yes, Chris Paul did 100%. But again, I told you, Blake Griffin was their second best player and was supposed to take that, was supposed to be that guy. And we all know Blake Griffin really wasn't never going to be that guy. He had his limitations. But again, I'm just saying, I understand
your team, Bren, was not overwhelmingly better. They were a worse team, and they still came up clutch.
Yeah.
I mean, Blake Griffin, he played, let me check. Yeah, he played every single game that postseason, and in games 5, 6, and 7, he played pretty darn well. 30-16, 27-11 in an elimination game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me is a sign of poor coaching. When you did it in Orlando, you did it twice in the Clippers' tenure with both Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard. I think you and I both agree. Blowing that 3-1 lead to the Nuggets was a lack of composure on their side. They made no adjustments.
Well, no.
Said years later, in 2022 or 2023, this season, Blake Griffin was in a post-game press conference, and he says, they made no adjustments, which is not an unusual thing about his former coach and Doc Rivers. Because what do you think makes a great head coach?
Adjustments, yes, adjustment. But
what else? Composure. Doc Rivers has no composure. He just throws stuff at the wall, and it usually doesn't stick.
But
bigger mess.
Okay. first off, that was one series you brought up of the Clippers blowing that and Blake Griffin showing up. That's just one series.
What do you think about 2021, them putting Danny Green on Trae Young in game 1, having him get torched for 40 points, and then waiting to put Ben Simmons on him, not benching Ben Simmons, but then in a game 7, having really no solution for Danilo Gallinari guarding your second best player, who is just firing up 1-3 after another, watching your team blow a 3-2 lead to a Hawks team you have no business losing to? What is your takeaway on that? Is that series entirely in the stars, or is that maybe on the coach too?
In the Hawks series, you're talking about the one where Ben Simmons didn't dunk the ball.
Correct.
Yeah, that was the biggest takeaway, not Doc Rivers. That was the biggest takeaway. I mean, that literally ruined Ben Simmons' career, quite possibly. Literally, that play could quite possibly have ruined Ben Simmons' career for the rest of his life. Quite possibly. Again, but you're bringing up, and I hear you on it, and I understand he's got his faults. I'm not arguing that. I'm saying also his star players need to show up, and you just went through James Harden and Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. The Clippers one I wanted to bring. That one, okay. But you got to remember, Kawhi didn't want Doc Rivers. Like, the team didn't want him anymore. They wanted somebody else. So that one, I kind of give him a little bit of a pass, I'm going to be honest with you, because the team just didn't want him anymore. And if you're going to say that this year too, then, I mean, hell, I don't know, man. Joel, but I guess what you're saying, John, is you're blaming both parties equally, James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Doc Rivers. You're all putting them that they all didn't succeed.
No, I'm actually putting the majority of the blame on the stars. But okay. Doc Rivers is still a playoff rod, and I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. I do think he's a Hall of Famer, but we can agree to disagree. I'm not going to die on that.
It's a basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah. But yeah, I just, for me, it was just, I think keeping him would have been the right move, in my opinion. You want to get rid of him, that's fine. I guess they're going to go get maybe Monty, Nick Nurse, the same head coaches that are out for basically every other playoff team that fired their head coaches. But yeah, I guess nothing more to say. Joel Embiid is, he's got to be better. I don't know who the hell they go out and get. I don't think they trade him. I got to be honest with you. I don't see that happening. He's their golden goose. I think the best plan of action
on him.
What happened?
Would you have that same opinion if the fan base turns on him?
I mean, if you're the front office, who gives a hell what the hell freaking fan base thinks? It's your decision. It's your money. You make the decisions. I understand. Yeah, does it suck if but then again, we know Philly's going to turn on you in a freaking second. They're turncoat fans. They'll love you 1 second and turn. They're kind of like the New York Knicks fans. No offense, Justin, but that's what it is.
What if it's so hopeless that they're literally not invested into the team anymore?
I don't think it's that hopeless. Obviously, you're losing James for nothing. That's going to suck, right? But you have Maxey, who a lot of people are high on. Tobias, I don't know what his value is out there, but you probably want to move off of him.
Not expiring.
Yeah, and so it really is just I just, for me, I don't see them moving on from Joel Embiid, at least right now. I don't see
I don't think you can, because realistically, what is out there for you? You're going to go through, we say,
yeah, you're not.
The process over? What? No, technically it's not, because if you get rid of Embiid, you're restarting a whole new process. You're right back where it started.
And you're not getting Wemby. There's no chance of getting Wembanyama. So, I mean, I know the Knicks are shopping.
I can think of is I know Portland is shopping that number 3 overall pick, and they're trying to build a championship team around Lillard, even though I think that's just a dream of theirs. That'll never happen. But
I think I think Philly would rather be like, no, wait, we would rather have Damian Lillard with Joel Embiid than take that 3rd round pick and give you Joel Embiid. Yep. That would be my thinking of Philadelphia. So yeah, and it goes to, like, if Philadelphia is like, well, we have Embiid and Maxey right now. We're still probably a top 4 team in the East currently.
They're perfect for a 2nd round exit. Amazing.
They are 100%. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I'm just saying looking at it right now and saying, well, if we get rid of Joel Embiid for that 3rd pick, do we believe either Scoot, the Thompson twins, or whoever the hell they select at that 3rd spot is going to be better than Joel Embiid? That would be their major decision.
I don't think that's the question.
No?
I think the question is, who brings you to the Eastern Conference Finals first? Scoot Henderson or whatever anonymous player that replaces Joel Embiid, or Joel Embiid? I think the answer to that question is not Joel. Am I crazy for thinking that?
I don't think you're crazy because we don't know what's on the other side. The other side is a opened box that we haven't seen what could be. Yeah. So you're hopeful with that. You're very like, you're like a kid on Christmas. You're like, oh, I wonder what's in the box. You could be disappointed or you could get what you exactly asked for. I would say I would lean towards Joel Embiid more if I'm
Same. You remember, John, they were one win away from getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's tough to say you move off of him and then now expect a young buck that's 19 years old to come in there and lead you to the Eastern Conference Finals.
You know what Joel Embiid did in those two? You know what Joel Embiid did in those 2 games?
We know he played like absolute dog crap, but so did James Harden, his co-mate, and he's gone now. And I think that's a great for this team. Hell, we don't know this either. Maybe Tyrese Maxey takes a big jump because James Harden's gone. Maybe he takes a big jump. He could.
And Joel Embiid's 2 elimination games in Game 7 of the second round. Back versus the Raptors, he shot 6 of 18 and was pretty disappointing defense. That's not true. He was the best defender on the floor for the 76ers, but offensively, he was pretty disappointing. He was also struggling to guard in space because that's always been an issue with him. And then this most recent season, it's a Game 7. He's hurt again conveniently, like every single season. And he went 5 of 18 this time. So it was actually a little bit worse. And we always make these excuses, but the Celtics are an elite defense. Do we make those same excuses for Giannis? No, we don't. We don't make those for Jokic. Jokic last year is playing the best defense in the league, and no one said that. They were all they were talking about is, he lost in 5 games, Yeah. And Embiid loses in 7 to the Celtics. They're a great defense. I'm like, well, we have to keep that energy consistent here.
Yeah.
I think he's a choke artist. He's the second. He is the second biggest playoff underperformer of our generation. The first is Harden, and it's pretty remarkable they play together. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I mean Julius Randle might have something to say about that.
He's not good enough.
His expectations are not.
Imagine if Joel Embiid had a kid and he was slightly worse. That would be Julius Randle.
Yeah. But so John, are you ready to apologize for you attacking me on James Harden as well?
I attacked you? What did I do?
What do you mean? You pushed me to a point of having to go down all his playoff shortcomings.
Oh, well, I wanted you to do that for the show, actually. I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
What did I do? I told you he was a playoff choke artist.
Well, you kept coming at. You kept poking me. You kept poking me and saying, well, no, it could be this too. It could be this too. You kept poking. So,
well, I like to say with new information, ideas and perspectives develop in time. And he had 2 of his best playoff games, but I forgot about those because the other 4 were so god awful. Yeah. Pardon me for using God's name in vain, but it was that bad. I mean, what I had to witness in Game 7 and Game 6 was truly almost as bad as Games 2 and 3. That was the last stamp on his playoff run, which has always been quite a disaster.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what quite possibly could not be a disaster moving forward. Future is bright for some teams. Johnny boy, you want to tell us about the draft lottery, huh?
Yeah. Speaking of Harden's former team that is mired in dysfunction, the Houston Rockets, Victor Wembanyama's draft reaction to going, or basically he was a lottery ticket. He was chosen by the gods that also chose David Robinson and Tim Duncan back in the 90s for the Spurs. And the funny thing was his reaction, because when he saw San Antonio, his double pump in the fist, he's like, thank God I am not going to Houston, Charlotte, Detroit, hell, even the Portland Trailblazers, one of these horrible franchises. You want to know who sounds crazy too? Victor Wembanyama almost became a Washington Wizard. I would have jumped off a bridge. That's actually really terrible to say. I don't want to joke about that, but quite literally, I would have. If he was taken by the Washington Wizards, who have zero ambition from ownership to win games, he would have had his career wasted by a team that has really no business being relevant in the NBA. I feel bad for their fans, but golly, they need a new owner badly. Because the way the lottery works, there's a code of 4 letters or a code of 4 digits, and it's based off an order, 1 to 14. And for the last ping pong ball, after the Rockets, who are the top, after the Hornets, Rockets, and Trailblazers were all set 2, 3, and 4, and I think the Rockets, they had the 3rd pick, something like that, or maybe the 6th. There was one left now as the 1st overall pick. And the Trailblazers had a 53% chance of jumping into the top 4, but they would have been guaranteed the first overall pick because they were the last lottery ball left. So they had over a 50% chance of getting Victor. Unfortunately, one of the smaller percentages was the San Antonio Spurs. I just can't stand the Wizards. They're the most irrelevant team in sports. I think they should sell the team. They get a new owner. Hell, I mean, Washington, D.C. is a great basketball city, great city, horrible franchise, one of the worst in sports. I mean, now that the Commanders have been sold, if he went to them, I would have been so pissed. So pissed. I wouldn't even feel good for their fans because if you're a fan of the Wizards, you got to back it up. You got to move on like ASAP. They've no business getting money from fans. It's an embarrassment. It's a joke of a franchise. So I'm pretty relieved. Now that I've said that, he has a San Antonio Spur. I'm sorry you guys to hear that. San Antonio has a French fan base from Tony Parker and Boris Diaw, but they also have they have Greg Popovich, who helped develop Tim Duncan into a top 10 player of all time. And while I think he needed Duncan, we've seen in the years since him develop DeJounte Murray into a player they got 4 first-round picks for. Keldon Johnson, one of the better young wings in the game. Devin Vassell into the same exact thing. We've even seen Jeremy Shohan, who was considered a reach with the 9th overall pick last year, far exceed everybody's expectations. But the one thing they lacked the entire time was a generational prospect. And they also had the worst defense in the league's history last year, too. And they bring in probably the best defensive prospect to the last maybe ever because he's 7'5" and can move on the perimeter, hips that flip. And he's pretty quickly going to go to a team with a coach, stability, and pretty good teammate, really good teammates around him. They're all 23 years old or younger. This is the perfect landing spot for Victor. The fan base deserves it. They're a well-run team. They don't have really any dysfunction. And I'm just so happy for him that he's going to go to some place where he's not going to have the spotlight on him 24/7. People are going to keep a close eye on him. But when Zion went to New Orleans, people kind of stopped watching him by his second year. And by that point, he was an All-NBA player, but no one really cared because he was in New Orleans and they weren't a playoff team. With Victor this year, it's going to be very similar. He's going to it's not a smaller market, but there's not that much attention to glamour on the outside nationally on San Antonio. So I think that's a much better destination than, say, him going to a place like New York or Los Angeles. They weren't in the running, but he could have went to Chicago. And if he went to She-Town, they would have had a mountain of expectations to make the playoffs as a rookie. And I don't think it would have been reasonable for him.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite possibly the best case scenario for Victor. I literally when I was watching it, I bursted out laughing when the Spurs got the first pick because a light bulb went off in my head of, of course it's the Spurs. Like, we should have knew this the entire time that it was the Spurs that were going to get it. You spoke about it from Robinson, the Admiral, to Timmy D, Tony Parker, Manu, and then hell, you forgot Kawhi Leonard. They were able to make and transition him into this elite offensive player. And that was their only kind of one dysfunction was Kawhi's problem with Pop and how the team doctors were handling him. But other than that, it's been, quiet as a church mouse. Kind of very similar to the New England Patriots. That's why they both these teams and franchises get compared very often, especially in the last 20 plus years. But yeah, best case scenario for Wemby going to the Spurs. My only thing is, you named all those guys, John, right? And then you I think you said their ages too. Very young team. It's very similar to the OKC Thunder, right? The one issue that could arise, and I think that is possibly arising for the OKC Thunder as well, is, are you too young? Meaning, what I mean by that is, all these guys are, their contracts are going to be come up, right? You're going to have to pay, a lot of money out there. You're going to have to pick and choose, right? And can you capitalize on that? And then eventually when those contracts come up, do you lose them for nothing? Or do you want to package some of those picks, trade them away, get a superstar who is made right now? You can pair with Shea and Giddey and Chet maybe, and on the Spurs, Johnson and Victor coming in. Do you pair them? Because the Spurs have what? Was it 12 picks in the next 4 or 6 years or something like that? And they got a bunch of young players. So do the Spurs say, okay, and Pop's age, I'm not saying he's going to, he's in great health, I would imagine, but I'm just saying he's 75 years old. He's getting up there. Do they try to go very soon where they're like, all right, we have a bunch of these picks. We have a bunch of young players. let's pick like one or two guys that we have now, keep them, trade some of the other young guys, package some of those picks, and get us a superstar or star type player where we can now compete now. That would be my only question that could arise for these young
Julius
teams.
Randle.
A Jaylen Brown. That's a great point, Tony. That's why it's important to not hoard. That's why it's important to not hoard. God,
Yes.
no Julius Randle.
You know the thing is, I seeing that he's going to be picked by the San Antonio Spurs, and we can harp on how much it's a match made in heaven. The pressure on the young guy is out of this world, and being drafted specifically by this organization doesn't make it any better. While yes, you do have Coach Pop, now you're expected to make the impact that the David Robinson, that the Tim Duncan made immediately when they got drafted. So, you mentioned him in Chicago, how they would have playoff expectations in their first year. I think San Antonio is going to have immense expectations now. And while it's not going to be, they have to be title contenders, no, but they have to contend for the play-in now. They have to see, you're expecting this kid to not just probably be the unanimous rookie of the year. You're expecting this guy to carry your franchise for the next 10, 15 plus years and be a first ballot Hall of Famer. LeBron came into the league in an interview, I believe it was with Bob Costas, and Costas told him, the expectation for you is Hall of Fame or bust. If you don't make the Hall of Fame, you're a bust. John, you started the episode with talking about who he's being compared to, and if he's not any one of these three players you name, he's a bust, which is completely unfair. Because if this guy has a Hall of Fame career, wins himself a ring in San Antonio, he'll be a legend. But I'm worried about the expectations. I think San Antonio, we don't know how long Pop has in the game. You touched on, Brandon. He's 75 years old. He's closer to retirement than he is another 10 years of coaching basketball. So what kind of Victor Wembanyama are we going to see? Is it going to be with him and Pop for maybe 2 years at most? Are we going to get 5 years of him and Pop? Remember, head coaching is important. What's the perfect marriage for him? Right now, it's Pop, but in 2 years, is it going to be Pop?
The good news is that Pop's successor is going to be really deserving of the job. There's too much gravitas to the role, and the Spurs are a model. Outside of Kawhi and Josh Primo, more so, who we don't have to discuss on this podcast, they have been the model organization, and I just think San Antonio is the perfect city for France and France's biggest superstar. And now he's gonna go to a place where he's very raw, but they develop talent better than any team in the NBA. They've needed a center since Tim Duncan retired in 2016, and they had LaMarcus Aldridge at 4 in those years. So, look, I don't think the expectations will be that high. I mean, this was the number one destination for Wemby, and it was really destined to happen, I think.
Yeah, I just final thing for me is on Victor. I do agree. The pressure on this kid is immense. It is like 1,000 houses on this guy's back right now. It's I really don't know. I've seen highlights. And I know people can, and John has probably looked at the film a lot more than a lot of us have, but I think even John would say you have to take the film with a grain of salt because of the level of competition he's playing against. So it's going to be interesting how, you got to remember, LeBron James, like Justin said, LeBron came in and, God, what was his first stat line? What was it, 25?
20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yeah. As an 18-year-old kid, that's insane. So he's now moving into a land of giants, and he is the giant among the land of giants in terms of height, not in terms of size. I don't know how that's going to work. That's going to be very interesting to watch his body, because I mean, could you imagine Jokic back in Wembanyama down?
Well, he's 7'5" at the
I understand he is. But
humans are not supposed to be that tall, but he is so long that he's still going to get a lot of blocks.
But he is also very, don't
Mm-hmm.
got a lot of junk in the trunk is what I'm saying. Jokic got a lot. Embiid got a lot. I understand the height and stuff. I'm just saying the size and the girth of him is a question for me.
And that's
Yeah,
why I
I'm
think
hoping
he's a
he does.
power forward on day one, by the way. I don't think
Yeah.
he's a center.
That's all I'm saying is it'd be interesting where they place him, like how he plays, where he goes, who he matches up against, how defenses, how offenses attack him. It's going to be very interesting how he translates, basically, like any young draft pick in any sport, how they translate into their professional league.
And he's not LeBron, by the way, as a prospect. LeBron is more NBA ready. He can't pass, and he's also he has some bad habits offensively where he's so used to being the man. He was the man in France, but now he's going to have to play in a league where they're going to triple team you and send traps, and they're going to have to take the ball out of his hands. So how can he overcome double teams? How can he read the floor, and how can he build the right habits off the ball where his shot selection was poor, his efficiency because of it was waning? And I think in the NBA, he's going to need the right coach, and he's got to go on.
He's got to go on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Totally agree. Anything more on the draft lottery, John, that you want to talk about? Or
Yeah, I think the Charlotte Hornets are. I probably shouldn't go around saying a team's cursed. It's not the right mojo. But the Charlotte Hornets are cooked, man. In 2004, they missed out on Dwight Howard by a pick. They take Emeka Okafor. In 2012, they missed out on Anthony Davis by a pick, and they ends up taking Michael Kidd Gilchrist, New Jersey legend. But then in 2023, they were one pick away from Victor Wembanyama, and they got the second overall pick. There's a discussion, should they take Scoot or Brandon Miller? I think they have to take Scoot Henderson. He is the better player, but he's also more physical. LaMelo is a softer player. He's not going to get to the rim as much. I don't think you should take another wing similar to LaMelo. I think you should take yourself the physical guard who's built like a train at 6'2". As for the draft lottery order, let me pull it up right now so I don't make any mistakes so I can read it off to you guys real quick. I want to ask you guys the question. What question am I going to ask you guys? I don't even know. Oh, well, fell back. The Pistons won 17 games and they fell to the 5th pick. Can you imagine that?
I saw the reaction. Who it was Ben Wallace, I think that was there. I saw his reaction. He was kind of like, "Damn it!" when he got the 5th pick. It sucks for them. Yeah, that's disappointing. But listen, I mean, they got Cade. You know, we'll see how Cade progresses.
Correct. They also have a lot more than talent. I don't know if they know how to build around it. Okay, so here's the draft lottery order. The Spurs at 1, Hornets at 2, Blazers at 3. You guys saying before they're probably going to trade it. 4 Rockets, 5 of them. The Detroit Pistons fell 4 spots back. 6 the Magic, 7 the Pacers. They really need to move up in this class. They missed out big time. 8 the Wizards. Thank God they're there. 9 the Utah Jazz. 10 the Mavericks, who keep their pick. Next year the Knicks will get it. 11 the Chicago Bulls. They're keeping their pick, it looks like. I think the Magic might get the Magic are keeping it. It's a top 4 protected. So that'll be the Orlando Magic 11. 12 the Thunder, 13 the Raptors, and 14 the Pelicans.
Yeah. I mean, there's rumors. I think the Rockets are possibly going to trade out of the 4th spot if they get James Harden. There's rumors that Dallas is looking to trade their 10th overall pick. So there's probably going to be a lot of movement moving into when is the draft? It's after the finals. It's
June
like
20.
Late June. Yeah,
Last
I think it's
week of June.
Yeah. But yeah, there's probably going to be some movement. I would imagine some people get traded. I don't know what the Portland Trailblazers are trying to get, what they will get. Like if they go get, no disrespect to Julius Randle, Justin knows, John knows. That's not. I mean, what do you got? Julius Randle and Jeremy Grant. I mean, that's enough for Damian Lillard. Which no, it's not.
You're going to have to give me a 1st-round pick to take Julius Randle.
Yeah, yeah. And then you got the Rockets. Yeah, there's going to be movement. It's going to be interesting, but some of these teams, I mean, I think we all hope that Damian Lillard at least just gets out of Portland because, I mean, we've been calling it for the longest. I've been calling it for the longest, but
I've lost hope in that argument.
I do. I have a long time ago too. It's just,
don't disrespect.
Man can hope. Hopefully.
So they leaked the script. The Grizzlies are moving up to the 3rd overall pick and selecting.
The script.
No, maybe I shouldn't say this. I really want the Grizzlies to get Brandon Miller, but there's all these memes because John Morant, who I don't want to talk about him unless you guys do. I can't even make mock trades to the Grizzlies again, Brandon, because of all of these gun memes, which are not so funny because of the seriousness of it and the sensitivity.
Mhm.
But I really hope the Grizzlies move up into one of those spots where it's 10-4-3 to get themselves an elite wing to replace Dylan Brooks. This is the draft to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it would. Where do they pick? They're pretty
25.
low. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're gonna have to give up to get up there that high, but
The Warriors pick next year and all their other picks.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies are kind of in a standstill right now because they're waiting to see how the John Morant suspension goes, because there are rumors that it could be half the season. There's people calling for a full season. So
I'm assuming it'll be north of 20 games.
Yeah, and that's good. Even that that's going to heavily affect the Memphis Grizzlies, how they go this offseason, how they compete in the regular season when the season starts. So I think they're kind of just waiting on that before they can really make any massive moves.
Well, at least John Morant got attention. Is there anything else you guys like to discuss? We had some UFC sightings, some UFC notes. Excitement.
I got one thing because I hadn't been able to touch on it since we started the show. Yeah, I was in hiding. I was not available last episode for Mother's Day, and I was glad that I was not on the show to address the Knicks. Brandon, much respect to you. It was a well-fought series. It was a dogfight. I won't dive too deep into it until maybe another day, but I'm still heartbroken watching the NBA. I woke up on Monday thinking I was going to be watching a Game 7, and I was like, oh, wait. I'm not.
It's okay, Justin. Listen, it's what you can take pride in is you were a part of a special journey. And this team will be remembered for a very long time because of the journey that you were taken a part of. So congratulations for that. I tip my cap.
For the first time in our lives, the Knicks are an actual free agent player. In my life, the Knicks have an actual case. If we get a top 10 player, we have a chance to win a championship this year. Because you have Jalen Brunson
next year,
assets and picks and young players. And if you can move those into a number 2 to play off of Jalen Brunson, well, now you're set to go.
Yeah, I think, the one thing that bothered me, I guess, the most about us losing to Miami was the fact that as much as, we can argue about it, and I'll stick by what I said when I said I believe we were a better team. I believe we were the better team on the floor. We just didn't play like it. I think Randall not stepping up, and obviously RJ not stepping up in Game 6, but it goes far beyond that into our role players not stepping up, not having IQ, playing at his best in the beginning of the series, and then losing him also. Grimes not being able to hit a shot, kind of afraid of the moment. I do think we had the pieces to win and advance to the conference finals. It just wasn't our time. And for all the criticism that, we touched on with Doc Rivers and Brandon, you had said, your star players need to step up. I know John isn't really a big fan of Tom Thibodeau, but Tibbs has created a great culture right now in New York. Now 2 postseason appearances since he's been there. We've gotten around further than we were the last time. And I don't think that this is the peak of where he can take us. I think with what he's building, with the kids that we got, who's to come in the future, I think this Knicks team, I think in the beginning of this show when we started, I said the Knicks will have a title in one of the next 2-3 years. And I still believe that. I think it's coming soon.
All right, it's coming soon. Listen, I think right now it's the best time to strike for any Eastern Conference team because the East is so wide open. So yeah, if go ahead, John.
Out of all the stars in the market, who's more likely to become a Knick next year, Giannis or Joel Embiid? I think it's an easy question now to say it out loud.
Embiid.
Yeah, I honestly don't believe either one will be. But
I don't think either.
I'm not going to go on this waiting for superstar train that I've been on.
He's been hurt too much, John.
Yeah, just let it happen. And also, I'm not going to go along the route of, F. Julius Randle. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, there was some people after the game. There was a poster of Julius Randle outside of MSG. They tore it down and were stomping on it. And I absolutely hate that for the simple fact that for a franchise, and I, for one, can speak to this, have longed for a superstar. And while Julius Randle doesn't fit the bill for superstar for you, for us, a two-time All-NBA player that we hadn't seen in years since Carmelo Anthony, and before that, I'd have to dig deeper and deeper to find that player.
Yeah.
I think all Knicks fans should really sit back and just be grateful, because although, I get it, for all the postseason crap, regular season still has a little bit of value. We're not in the spot that we're at today without Julius Randle, so you got to give him his respect.
That's true. But the going too far and stuff like that, I've already spoken on that months ago when we talked about stuff like that. It's just, we can talk with passion and energy and stuff like that, but being disrespectful is unnecessary. But again, I think, as a Knicks fan, it's time. Julius Randle has taken you as far as he possibly can. Jalen Brunson is the guy. He is the head honcho of that team. You got a good one in him. I said it when me and John were on Mother's Day, and I said, listen, I got to tip my cap to Jalen Brunson, because you earn my respect and you earn a lot of people's respect when you're able to put performances up the way he did against a Spo coach team, Jimmy Butler led team, and a team like the Miami Heat with Heat culture. You earn my respect. You earn a lot of people's respect. So he, and I said this too, Justin, he is a bona fide star. He has made himself that guy. So you have that guy now. Julius Randle is again taking you as far as he can. It's time for him to go. Like Stephen A. said, I am done with this man. But yeah, so listen, it's time to look forward for you guys. The East is wide open. So
this is the most fun that I have going into an off season.
There you go.
In my Knicks fandom,
ever?
In all honesty.
Since Melo, probably, right? Or
I mean, even then, that was me as a kid just believing that the Knicks could win everything. I didn't know nothing. I thought the Knicks would win the title and knock off LeBron. Who am I kidding?
Yeah.
But now, as a 25-year-old and going through all the sufferings that I have as a fan, this is the most optimistic that things have been for us, and I really believe this is a big off season for us if we want to take another step.
Very good, Justin. Very good.
Congrats to Miami, bro.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So that wraps up our NBA talk. So let's get into this. This is going to be a MMA portion, I guess, of the show. I just wanted to speak on it just a little bit because this is a pretty big news in the mixed martial arts world. And I'm gonna try this because I love listening to Ariel Helwani, the best journalist in the game in mixed martial arts. He's a French Canadian as well, so the way he says it is I love when he says it. But I'm gonna go a little overboard with it. Le Predator, Francis Ngannou. Le Predator is what I said. He has signed the most lucrative deal in mixed martial arts history with the PFL, the Professional Fighters League. The deal is the perks that he's getting. I don't think the money has been disclosed yet. I think he's probably getting upwards of 20 million probably per fight, which is pretty ludicrous. The only guys I think really getting that are Connor is getting upwards of that and stuff like that. But he is signed on with the PFL, his mixed martial arts deal. He's going to be on the fighter advisory board. He's the chairman of PFL Africa now. He has fought for getting his opponents now are getting a minimum of $2 million guaranteed, minimum, which is pretty great. We've never seen this. One fighter caring about his opponent getting paid as well. So that's a tip of the cap for Francis Ngannou. He's getting a lot of stuff from him. He's getting sponsorships now. He can, sign his own sponsorships and put them. I think it's at least 2 on his shorts now, which in the UFC you're not allowed to. It's kind of like a private school. You have to wear a uniform and you get paid pretty shit money for their sponsorships. I think it's like $10,000 or something like that. Like, I don't even know if it's actually that much, to be honest with you, but you have to wear the crypto gear, the this, the that, the Project Rock, and you really don't get a cut of it, which is kind of bullshit that the UFC has gone that way, but it's how Dana wants to run his business, and that's the way it is. And that's so a lot of those reasons that Francis Ngannou left the UFC is because he was demanding and wanted all these perks. I wouldn't even really call them perks. I would call them things that I guess fighters should be entitled to, especially at that level, which Francis Ngannou is, one of the baddest men on the planet, one of the greatest, best heavyweights in the world right now. But the UFC doesn't run their business that way. They are, you work for the UFC. You're an independent contractor to the UFC. You're not actually an employee. I don't know if a lot of people know that. It's very professional wrestling-esque. It's very much like so it's not like the NBA where you work, LeBron and them work for these teams. No, it's like if I were to call a plumber and have him come to the house, that is what basically the UFC fighters and mixed martial artists are. Those are the contracts they sign. They're independent contractors, which is a shame. So Francis is fighting for a lot more than just money and stuff like that. He's fighting for the betterment of the fighters going forward. It's because the mixed martial arts doesn't have a fighter union or a union, actually. And like, the NBA does. Nope, they do not. So that's why in mixed martial arts, it's a dog eat dog world. And there's when people bring up unions and stuff like that, it's a very difficult discussion to have, because let's say, let's go to this point. Kamaru Usman, a couple of years ago when the pandemic was happening, was going to fight Jorge Masvidal. Masvidal wanted a big payday to take that fight. And the UFC was not willing to do that. They're like, nope, not going to do it. So what do? They go to the next man up. All right, who's willing to fight Usman for the title for cheaper money? Gilbert Burns raises his hand. I'll do it. Gilbert Burns gets injured about a week, 2 weeks before the fight. Guess what happens now? The UFC comes calling Jorge Masvidal, and they're like, what do you want? We'll give it to you. We need you. Only when their hand is forced will they do it.
Right.
Masvidal took the fight, 6 days notice, had to cut 25 pounds, fly across the world, then a pandemic, blah, blah, blah. I say that because there's always going to be somebody who's going to take your spot. So if you're a top guy like a Masvidal was then, or any other guy right now, and you're like, no, I demand this amount of money. I want this money because I deserve this money. Well, the UFC will say, yeah, kick rocks. We'll go to the next guy up, because guess what? There's always going to be somebody else that's going to raise their hand and say, I'll fight for less money.
That's business, man.
That is business.
Fortunately, yeah.
And then so that's why a fighters union is very difficult to look towards the future of MMA, because it is a dog-eat-dog world. These guys are not looking out for each other's interests. They're looking out for themselves, which they rightfully should, because it's their life and their family that they have to provide for. They shouldn't have to care for anybody else. But that's what makes Francis's decisions and what he's doing so unique and admirable, because he is fighting for the future of the fighters. And that is a great thing to see. My only pushback on it was he's fighting for the PFL, which is, I guess, arguably now the second biggest promotion in the world, maybe the third behind Bellator. Who the hell is he going to fight? I have no idea. There's rumors that the guy he's going to fight is not even on the PFL roster right now, because if you look at the heavyweight roster, it's pretty lackluster. There's not many names that you're really going to know that much. So there's rumors that maybe that $2 million minimum is going to possibly lure free agents to come to the PFL and have him fight, because he's not fighting in mixed martial arts till maybe early 2024, because he wants to take a boxing fight as well this year. And he's talking now, he wants to take a tune-up boxing fight this year, maybe fight Wilder, Fury, or Joshua, maybe late this year, maybe next year. It's very foggy on that stuff. But I just wanted to talk about that. Francis Ngannou doing his thing. And one last thing, because I got into a little Twitter spat with some jabron on the Twitter machine, and he was basically saying Francis Ngannou ran from from John Jones. I want to say this. Anybody who thinks these fighters are scared of one another does not understand that these fighters literally get paid to fight in their underwear and go. No, none of these fighters are scared of each other. You wouldn't get into that business if you were scared of another human being. And then he tried to walk it back saying, oh, I didn't mean physically scared. I meant financially he'll lose everything. Listen, I just got to say I just wanted to say these fighters are not scared of anybody. So anybody putting that narrative out there that Ngannou ran from John, he did not run. The reason he didn't re-sign with the UFC is because the UFC was not willing to give him the things that Francis Ngannou wanted. It was never about the money. Never about the money. All right? It was about other things and the betterment of the fighting world future. And last thing, I did have a little bit of pushback. Not really pushback. It's just, two alpha males going at it. John and Francis went at it on Twitter. Francis called himself the baddest man on the planet. And John said, it's crazy that he's called himself the baddest man on the planet when he's now across the street from me. And then Francis said, well, then cross the street then. It's just two alpha males going back and forth. Listen, we'll never know. We'll never know because that fight's probably never going to happen, which absolutely sucks for fans. It sucks. It would have been one of the biggest fights in mixed martial arts history. But we can have an idea of who would have won. I have my thoughts on who would have won. I do believe John Jones would have won that fight. I do believe John Jones is the baddest man on the planet. I've just seen it. But yeah, that's all I want. The Francis Ngannou, Le Predator, signing the most lucrative deal in MMA history with the PFL. So, shouts outs to him.
How much is $2 million relative to the scale for the UFC fights? A typical.
It's a lot more.
Even for like a main card.
So this is the funny thing about mixed martial arts. They don't really disclose their purses, right? The fighters are allowed to. Dana has said that multiple. The fighters can tell you what they make. They can. And there's a lot of what the hell is the word? Cooler talk, I guess you would say, about, listen, Dana White signs checks that aren't presented to the world, right? He'll cash you a check. He'll sign you a check and say, here you go for, kind of off the books, but not really off the books, but just not disclosed to everybody else's knowledge. So we won't know officially how much people make, but if you want to infer on stuff, you're asking me that it's a lot of money, 2 million compared to it. I mean, there was a Jeff Neal who just fought 2 months ago, about a year or two ago. I don't know if he still works there now, but now he's top 10, but he was top 15 at the time, and he was still working at Texas Roadhouse as a waiter.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a top 15 guy. Top 15.
I can't believe that.
Yes, you can't believe that. And this is not discussed a lot mainstream, which is, thankful for the UFC that they aren't as mainstream as they portray themselves to be or want to be, because if they were, these things would be getting discussed and it wouldn't be flying. So yeah, the champions are getting their money, John. But we don't know officially what these guys make unless they tell us. You'll see, you can Google numbers out there, but even the numbers you'll see are probably not realistic, or they might be higher, they might be lower. It's kind of a guesstimate, those numbers out there, if you Google them and whatnot. But yeah, it is a disappointing thing. That is a disappointing side of the mixed martial arts world. It's kind of like if you see how a hot dog is made, it's not cool to see how the sausage is made, as they say. So that's what the MMA Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
That's horrible. I mean, I can't even fathom the fact that they're going through the same thing that minor league baseball players used to go through, and some minor league baseball players still go through that. Not being paid really what they're worth, having to get second jobs sometimes. I'm cool with a former major leaguer. His name's Louis Lopez, and he shared with me a story how in his time in the minor leagues, he had a roommate of his, I forgot which roommate it was, but it was another former major leaguer. And they're in the minor leagues. They didn't have much money. They had just finished playing a day game, and they had a travel day the next day. They needed some food. They weren't traveling till later. They couldn't afford to buy food, so you know what they did? They went to a vending machine in their little complex that they were staying at, and they tried to make dinner from that because they couldn't scrape up a couple extra dollars. And he had some teammates that really needed second jobs to keep it afloat, and that's just horrible. How especially the UFC, while it's they don't see themselves, they portray this big mainstream product, but these fighters are putting their lives on the line, stepping in an octagon, and you can't provide them, I don't know, something for just to provide some security for their family or themselves, so they know when they go leave and walk out of a fight that they're taken care of. You take care of your employees. That's how you run a real good business. That's how you keep things sustainable. And I don't know. I think eventually something's gonna have to change. That can't stay that way forever.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of push now, especially as we move forward. There's people saying maybe the government would have to get involved. I don't know how that would work. That might get a very murky. But yeah, like I said, it's a very tight rope to walk because Dana's a master of the media, right? If you ever listen to him, he can spin something and make it completely, sound another way. And if you don't ask a follow up, you could kind of be sold a bag of BS, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's things that I do know, right? Not that I know for official fact, but I listen to people that I do trust their opinions and stuff. And there's guys like Jeff Neal who do work. I don't know if he does currently right now, but a couple years ago he did as a top 15 fighter. But Dana also does this. I know this about Dana. He will take care of his fighters. If somebody does get injured, if something happens or something like that, he will. He's done that plenty of times where, I can't think of him off the top of my head, but he will take care of them. He'll pay a medical bill. He'll do this. He'll do that. It's a very tight rope. It's just you wish that. We love that too. We love that, there's rumors that you sign checks that, the public doesn't really know about that could actually be upping somebody's pay a lot more than what we actually know. But there's also people like a Jeff Neal that did work a second job. There's people like a Jessica Andrade, who I think is a top 5 ranked fighter in the flyweight or strawweight division, whatever it is. And she does OnlyFans, and she was able to buy a house because of that. There's people that, they leave the UFC and they say, I'm making my biggest payday over here in Bellator, or like Francis in PFL, or people going to BKFC, bare knuckle fighting, or Tyron Woodley fighting Jake Paul. All these fighters saying that. So that sucks, but the UFC portrays it as, we're the UFC. You're getting paid what you get paid, but we're also giving you the notoriety. You get to be on the UFC brand. And that is, I guess, what they would probably say is payment enough, or covers the other half of that. But it does suck. If you're a top 15 fighter, you should be getting paid very well. If you're a champion, you should always be making bare minimum $1 million to just show up. Because you got to remember too, it is show and win. If you lose, you only get half your money. You do not get your full purse. There are special occasions where I guess Dana has paid both, but yeah. And then also the fight bonuses too, that are still $50K. I mean, what the fuck? Like $50K for a fight bonus. Can we bump it to 100? Like it wouldn't break the bank. Cause if you look at the UFC's numbers, they are incredibly profitable. They have tripled. I think it has tripled their value since 2016 or 2017. It is astronomical. So there's no excuse really. But Dana will tell you straight to your face that if you argue about this, he'll just say, yeah, well, go start your own fight company and you tell me how it works. So it's a double-edged sword with that.
That's how it works.
That is the business of the fight game. But that is going to wrap up episode number 103 of the Wise Guys podcast. Please, if you followed all along with us and stayed till the end, please like, subscribe, share the content with your friends and family, coworkers, acquaintances, whatever the hell. We love to talk to you guys. We love the communication. Follow us on our socials. John will have them in the description. He'll have them on the screen. Maybe John wants to tell you about our Patreon if he wants to real quick. But thanks for tuning in with us, episode 103.
Do we got Romaine in the chat real quick? What's
Is
up,
he?
Romaine? He's just joining us now. We were talking about everything. Glad he could join us. Yeah, we do have a Patreon account. If you enjoy the content, we got some people in here right now. Be sure to check it out. You can get Q&A access, video shoutouts, topic requests, and also access to my NBA articles during the off season, and it's as little as $1 a month. So we appreciate the support, but also drop a subscribe or hit the like button and then sub. And yeah, we appreciate you guys sticking around to the end.
Yeah, let's hurry up and end this show before Romaine tries to attack me about the Knicks.
Good point.
But to cap it all off, guys, I have been Brandon Capozziello. That was John Tortorelli. And
I'm actually on the other side, by the way.
It's different on my screen. And as everybody likes to say, Justin,
Stay classy.